Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would like to begin on a note of consensus. I believe that the majority of members in this Parliament agree that public sector procurement should, to quote the motion before us, provide value for money, ensure good employment practices are followed, have a supply chain that is anchored in Scotland and provides opportunities for businesses and jobs. This is, of course, the approach that informs the Scottish Government's procurement strategy. It's why a community benefit requirement is given a statutory definition in the 2014 Procurement Reform Scotland Act. So it is to be welcomed that there is continued strong support for the principle that decisions on procurement should be taken based on overall economic and social value and not simply the bottom line. However, with regards to the remainder of the motion, it displays those heroic levels of hypocrisy for which the Scottish Labour Party have become legendary. Before coming to this chamber to level accusations at this government, Labour would do well to recognise the PFI plank in its own eye. When Labour Chief Secretary to the Treasury Liam Burn stepped down, he left his successor a note stating, "I'm afraid there is no money left." When the Labour Party demitted office in Scotland, we left John Swinney with a pile of invoices, which more than a decade later is costing the Scottish taxpayer £1 billion each and every year. Labour's farcical approach to procurement and public finances means that over the coming years, we will have shelled out £22 billion for projects with a total capital value of £4 billion. If a Labour Party wants to be taken seriously on procurement, then they should start by apologising for their reckless and short-sighted handling of public finances whilst in office. No, because I'm about to come on to something quite important which Jackie Baillie failed to take due credence to. Now, Presiding Officer, this debate, aside from giving Labour an opportunity to polish our brass necks, would more normally contain much discussion on how EU procurement directives and ECG case law would be interpreted in a way consistent with one's own political values. I would rather we were in circumstances where this debate could consider the evolving nature of the single market, the developments relating to proposed revisions of the Posted Worker Directive, and what the potential implications of President Macron's vision of a more integrated Europe are on EU procurement law. However, Scotland now finds, Scotland now finds itself being dragged out of the EU against its sovereign will, and I will give way to a pithy intervention from Jackie Baillie.
Jackie Baillie.
Well, it will indeed be so. Can you tell me why the Scottish Government avoids EU regulations which give temporary workers the same conditions after 12 weeks by using paid between assignment contracts and by using agency workers? Why do you avoid EU procurement regulations by this underhand manner?
Tom Arthur.
I don't recognise that intervention from Jackie Baillie, but I'm sure my colleague, the Cabinet Secretary for Finance and the Constitution, will be more than happy to address these specific points. Now, the implications for our economy and our way of life as a result of Brexit are profound and catastrophic, with polling released today showing that 61% of Scots saying that both our economy and the wider UK economy will be worse off as a result of Brexit. This echoes the views of expert economists that I hear week in and week out as a member of the Economy, Jobs and Fair Work Committee. Given that a growing economy is fundamental to generating the revenue necessary for ambitious public sector procurement, the devastating economic damage that would follow from a hard Brexit would have a severe impact upon tax revenue, presenting huge challenges to the government in maintaining sustainable procurement that delivers wider social benefits. Presiding Officer, it is not just Brexit's threat to the economy that would harm procurement in Scotland. The UK Government's power grab could make it all but impossible for the Scottish Government to deliver sustainable procurement. That is the fundamental issue in this debate, as highlighted in the amendment in the name of Derek Mackay. Without powers over procurement in this Parliament and common frameworks agreed by consent, all of our deliberations become academic. And, Presiding Officer, I fear what the consequences would be if power over procurement in Scotland became the sole preserve of a right-wing, hard Brexit Tory government in Westminster. What concessions would be given in trade deals by a weak and isolated UK? And what would be the implications for our publicly owned NHS? And would there be a rollback on workers' rights and protections, incentivising bidding companies to engage in sharp practices and a race to the bottom? Presiding Officer, we don't have to look very far for the answers. It is clear that the hard Brexiteers are driving the agenda. They know that Theresa May is asking for a cherry-picked settlement that the EU simply cannot deliver, and they are biding their time, willing the talks to fail, that so when we reach exit day in little over a year, a bonfire of regulations can commence in earnest. We in this place have a solemn duty to ensure that all powers that currently sit with this Parliament, including those relevant to procurement, remain with this Parliament. Presiding Officer, the future arrangements, laws and processes regarding procurement across the UK must be achieved through agreement and not imposition. Our immediate priority must be ensuring that the powers of this Parliament are retained. Once that is achieved, however, we will then, as a Parliament, have a role to play in debating and discussing what shape the future procurement landscape should take in a post-Brexit world. For me, that must be one in which procurement continues to be used to promote the fairest and most robust of workers' rights, one that is bold in its use as a lever to promote sustainable economic growth, and one that is as transparent, open and accountant as possible. I believe that they are principles upon which general agreement can be found. Presiding Officer, I do regret that such future discussions will be necessary, and I still hope that the catastrophe of Brexit can be averted. However, if it seems increasingly likely we are to be torn out of the single market, then it is vital that this Parliament has the powers to shape future procurement in Scotland.
Thank you.